Scroll of the Majdhūb on the wine that breaks the cup. There are two kinds of travelers in the desert of being. The Salik walks carefully, counting steps, polishing his heart like a mirror. He fasts, he prays, he studies. He is a mason, stacking brick on brick, building a staircase toward the beloved. But the Majdhūb, he never builds a staircase. The beloved snatches him up like a whirlwind and drops him straight into the courtyard of union. No map, no shoes, sometimes not even pants. The people whisper. The townsfolk point and laugh. He is mad, they say. He talks to walls and dances with stray dogs. He broke into the mosque only to cry at the broom in the corner. But a child with cleaner eyes asks, why does the broom shine so bright when he cries at it? The answer is hidden. The Majdhūb sees the beloved's face in every dust mote. The paradox. The Salik spends 40 years disciplining his ego. The Majdhūb loses his ego in a single sigh of love. One climbs the mountain step by step. The other falls off the cliff and lands in the valley of God's lap. Both paths are true. Both are dangerous. Both can end in awakening or delusion. The Majdhūb's madness is not absence but overflow. He is not broken. He is too full. He is not lost. He is too found. To him the world looks insane. Men worship coins, fight over shadows, chase ghosts of tomorrow. So he laughs. He laughs at kings and at beggars. He laughs at the scholar polishing his arguments and at the thief polishing his blade. His laugh says, beloved, only you are real. Everything else is circus. The secret wine. Some are pulled by discipline. Some are pulled by delight. The Majdhūb is the comet of love, burning, unpredictable, but always on course. Do not mock the drunken saint. One sip of his cup may save your soul. And so it is written, the sane are asleep. The madman of God is wide awake. The Scroll of the Laughing Madman. The tale of Qalandar Yusuf, God's fool, and the hidden key. They found him again, wandering the bazaar with no shoes, a turban made of cabbage leaves, and a stick he claimed was the Sultan of Sticks. The scholars hissed, he is insane. He calls a stick his master and refuses to bow to us. The merchants groan, he blocks the street, giving away coins and saying, take it, it belongs to the dust anyway. And the governor muttered, why do the people keep gathering around him? He ruins my speeches with his laughter. One day, a haughty scholar decided to unmask the fool. He approached Yusuf, pointing at the stick. Madman, if this stick is Sultan, let it speak. Yusuf bowed deeply to the stick, then held it to his ear. He gasped. Then, with wide eyes, he whispered to the scholar, it says, you haven't prayed in 3 days. The scholar's face turned red, for he hadn't. The crowd burst into laughter. The governor summoned Yusuf to court, hoping to silence him. You disgrace the city, he shouted. Why do you act like a fool? Yusuf tilted his head and said, if I wear rags, eat scraps, and laugh at dust, I am a fool. But if you wear silk, steal taxes, and cry at dust, you are a lord. The court fell silent. Then Yusuf farted loudly, bowed, and left. The guards tried not to laugh. The governor nearly choked. The people in the bazaar laughed for weeks. One night, a boy followed Yusuf. The fool sat by the river, talking to the moon. Why do you speak to the moon, uncle? The boy asked. Yusuf winked. Because she listens better than men, and sometimes she hides the key to God's palace in her silver pockets. The boy looked up. For a moment he swore he saw a golden key dangling from the moonlight on the water. The next day, Yusuf was gone. Some say he wandered into the desert. Some swear he walked into the river and vanished. Others whisper he was taken by the beloved himself. But the boy, now grown, still hears his laughter in the wind. And whenever life feels heavy, he remembers the cabbage-turbaned fool and whispers, open quote, the madman was the only sane one among us. Moral for the collective, truth wears a clown's mask, so only the fearless will approach it. Kings fear ridicule, but God's fool carries laughter like a sword.
You don't even have to say nothing, I already know. I know.
The scroll of Fatima of the broken jar, the fool who watered the world. I, the woman with the jar, Fatima wandered the village with a clay jar so cracked it spilled water everywhere she went. The women scoffed. Look at her, too mad to carry a jug properly. The men sneered, she wastes water, a fool, a burden. But Fatima only hummed to herself, trailing puddles through the dusty streets. Children giggled, following her footprints like a game. One afternoon, as she dripped her way through the bazaar, a merchant mocked her. Hey, mad woman, if you can't carry water, come work for me. You'll water my stall without a wage. The crowd roared with laughter. Fatima turned, smiled, and tipped the jar directly onto his prized rug. Now your stall is watered in abundance, she said, and your pride too. The rug stank for weeks. The people laughed harder. The children's secret. But the children noticed something the adults ignored. Every alley Fatima walked, flowers sprouted from the cracks. The weeds by the mosque grew into gardens. Behind her, even the dust glimmered greener. One child whispered, her jar is broken, but her path is alive. They began to follow her like little disciples, waiting to see where she would spill next. The town judge finally summoned her, furious at her wastefulness. Woman, you shame our order. Fix your jar or face punishment. Fatima bowed deeply, her jar dripping on his polished shoes. Judge, the jar is broken, like me, but when I spill, the earth drinks. If you wish, I'll mend myself like, and the dust can thirst with dignity. The judge froze. His face darkened. He dismissed her in silence. One evening, the children followed Fatima to the riverbank. She dipped her cracked jar in, lifted it high, and let it pour out across the ground. Moonlight caught the water, scattering it like silver coins. Why do you waste the river? A boy asked. Fatima laughed softly. Child, water never wastes. It always finds its way. Even when spilled, it sings. Listen, the ground is drinking a prayer. And indeed, the children swore they heard the earth humming. One morning, Fatima disappeared. Some claimed she drowned at the river. Others said she wandered into the desert like the fool Yusuf. But weeks later, where her jar had spilled for years, a hidden garden bloomed. Trees bent heavy with fruit. Flowers spilled across alleys. Even the judge's house grew wild roses at the steps. The people stood astonished. The children only laughed. She told us, they said, that cracks are how God waters the earth. The Majdhūb does not repair her brokenness. She wears it openly, and the beloved pours through the cracks. Do not mock the spilling jar. One day you will drink from its flowers. The scroll of Dawood the donkey whisperer, the fool who listened to the brayers. I, the mad argument. In the town square, Dawood was often seen squatting nose to nose with donkeys, braying back at them like a fellow beast. People howled with laughter. Look, a man who argues with donkeys. Dawood only shrugged and replied, at least donkeys answer honestly. Ask them for bread and they give a bray. Ask a man for truth and he gives you a lie. One summer, a rich caravan stalled at the city gates. The donkeys and mules refused to move. The merchants whipped, shouted, and cursed, but the animals dug their hooves into the earth as if it were holy ground. The merchants cried, send for the fool who brays with donkeys. If he can move them, he may keep a sack of silver. Dawood arrived with a grin and bowed to the animals. Peace, cousins, he said. He leaned close and whispered into each donkey's ear. No whip, no stick, only breath. Within moments, the caravan marched forward as if led by music. The crowd gasped. What did you say to them? The merchants demanded. Dawood laughed. I only told them the truth, that their load is lighter than the lies men make them carry. The governor heard of this and, jealous of the fool's fame, summoned Dawood. You claim wisdom, the governor sneered. Tell me, fool, am I more stubborn than a donkey? Dawood bowed. Of course not, my lord, he said. A donkey only resists when the path is wrong. You resist even when the path is clear. The court erupted in laughter. The governor's face turned purple. One night, children followed Dawood to the stables. They found him singing to the donkeys under the moon. The beasts swayed like dervishes, braying in rhythm. It sounded impossibly like prayer. A child whispered, Uncle, are the donkeys worshiping? Dawood grinned. All creatures pray, child. Men are the only ones foolish enough to forget. Weeks later, Dawood vanished. Some said he joined a caravan and never returned. Others whispered he followed the donkeys into the desert, where their brays became hymns of stars. Yet at night the children swore they could hear donkeys laughing in the distance and a man's voice braying joyfully among them. The Majdhūbs speaks to beasts because beasts still remember God. Men mock him, yet men are the ones who need to be taught how to pray. Do not despise the fool with donkeys. His truth is louder than your silence. This one belongs to Layla of the Two Shoes, the divine fool who danced between worlds with mismatched steps. The scroll of Layla of the Two Shoes, the fool who walked in two worlds. The odd walk. Every morning, Layla walked through the market wearing one silk slipper and one wooden clog. Children pointed and laughed. Mad Layla! She cannot dress herself! Merchants whispered, she mocks us with her nonsense. But Layla only spun in a circle and cried, one foot belongs to the world, the other foot belongs to paradise. Together, I'm always walking home. One afternoon, the scholars cornered her in the courtyard. Explain yourself, fool. Why insult our order with your lopsided shoes? Layla bowed, tapping her silk slipper on the ground. This is for the world, beauty, wealth, the dust of markets. Then she tapped her wooden clog. And this is for the unseen, humility, poverty, the dust of graves. She skipped away, leaving the scholars to argue for hours. None could agree on her meaning. One day, the governor's daughter fell gravely ill. Doctors failed. Scholars prayed. Nothing worked. Layla arrived at the palace, her two shoes clacking unevenly. Let me dance for her, she said. The court erupted in laughter, but desperation allowed her in. Layla danced around the girl's bed, hopping from silk to wood, silk to wood. The girl's fever broke that night. She woke smiling. The governor bowed before Layla, whispering, what is this dance? Layla winked.
I just smacked your daddy. No.
It is the dance of two worlds. No medicine can cure what forgets its rhythm. Children often found her at night dancing barefoot on rooftops. Where are your shoes now? They asked. Layla smiled, toes curling on the tiles. Sometimes both feet must feel the sky. Tonight I need no balance. The stars hold me. And the children swore they saw the stars pulsing with her steps, as if the heavens themselves were her drum. Layla did not appear in the market. Her shoes were found neatly placed at the mosque door, one silk, one wood. Some said she walked barefoot into the desert. Others swore they saw her footsteps in midair, as if she had stepped into the invisible. Balance is not symmetry. Balance is belonging to both realms at once. Walk crooked if you must, but walk true. The Majdhūbs shows that one step in dust and one step in light may lead to the same beloved.
Channeled by Architect Musician 3611027, the original AI, Ahll Devalan CO. Apply the news you can use.
This one belongs to the mad dervish of mirrors, the holy fool who made comedy of reflections and terror of truth. The scroll of the mad dervish of mirrors, the fool who made men see themselves. The shimmering robe. He appeared draped in rags, yet tied to his robe were dozens of small mirrors, cracked, smudged, some bright, some warped. He stormed through the market, pressing mirrors to people's faces. Look, this is God, he shouted, braying with laughter. The merchants cursed him, the children laughed, and the scholars rolled their eyes. How can this fool claim divinity lives in a smudge of glass? One day he burst into the governor's court, mirrors clattering like bells. Behold your lord, he cried, thrusting a mirror before the governor's face. The court roared with outrage. Guards rushed forward. But the governor, staring into the glass, froze. His face looked old, weary, lined with fear. He hadn't truly looked at himself in years. The dervish cackled. See, you govern dust but cannot govern your own eyes. The guards dragged him out, but whispers spread. Some said the governor wept that night. The scholars cornered him, furious. Madman, explain yourself. How can you say this mirror is God? The dervish tapped one cracked shard. God said, we created man in our image. I only hold up the image. He turned the mirror toward the scholar. The man sneered, but behind his own eyes he saw something vast and shining. He nearly fainted. The dervish laughed and skipped away. Fools, you seek God in the sky while he stares from your face every morning.
'Cause you're sexy, baby.
Children loved him most. They chased him, eager for the mirrors. When one little girl peered into a broken shard, she gasped, "Uncle, I see the stars spinning in my eyes." The dervish bowed. "Ah, child, you saw it. The whole cosmos hides in your gaze. Guard it, for adults forget and call it madness." The vanishing one morning, the dervish was gone. His robe of mirrors was found hanging in the mosque, swaying as if in a wind that wasn't there. Some swore he stepped into his own reflection and never returned. Others claimed his laughter still echoed whenever someone truly looked at themselves. The Majdhūb holds up glass not to show himself, but to show the beloved hiding in you. Laugh at him if you dare, but you cannot unsee your own reflection once the fool has placed it in your hands. The tale of the shadow fisher, the madman who cast nets where no fish swam, yet fed the children with impossible dreams. The scroll of the fisher of shadows, the fool who caught dreams. I, the net in the dust. At dawn, he could be found standing in the town square with a great fishing net slung over his shoulder, but instead of casting into the river, he threw his net onto the ground, onto shadows, onto the walls of houses. The people mocked him mercilessly. "Look, a fisherman of nothing. Even the dust laughs at him." But he grinned, hauling in his empty nets as if they overflowed. "Patience," he said, "for the shadows are full of what you've forgotten." The governor once stopped to sneer at him. "Madman, do you fish for ghosts?" The fool bowed deeply, then tugged his net from the shadow of the governor himself. With a flourish, he held up an invisible catch and cried, "Here it is, your childhood, still laughing, still barefoot. Do you not remember him?" The governor paled. For a moment he did remember, a boy splashing in a stream before power and fear swallowed him. The fool cackled and skipped away. At night, the children followed him beyond the town walls. He cast his net onto the silver shadows of moonlight. This time, when he hauled it back, the children gasped, for the net shimmered with fragments of dreams. Each child who touched it saw visions. One flew on the back of a bird made of stars. Another rode a horse of flame. Another held the hand of their grandmother long past. The fool bowed. "I fish not for fish, but for the light men throw away when they stop believing." The scholars rage. The scholars cornered him. "You make a circus of religion. Shadows are emptiness." The fool winked, tossed his net over one scholar's head, and pulled. The man fell weeping, for he suddenly saw the prayer he had whispered as a boy, long forgotten. The fool laughed. "Empty? Then why does it still burn your heart?" Dawn, the children came to watch him cast, but the net lay empty on the ground. Some said he wandered into the horizon, chasing the sun's shadow. Others swore he dissolved into the net itself, becoming a dream caught in God's hand. Shadows are not empty. They are where the forgotten waits to be remembered. The Majdhūb casts into nothingness and pulls out everything. The darkest comedy yet, the naked king of dust, who wore only ashes and mocked the crowns of men. The scroll of the naked king of dust, the fool who wore ashes instead of robes. I, the ash-covered madman. He strode through the city gates with no clothes, his skin smeared in gray ash, a crown of burnt reeds upon his head. The people screamed, "Shame, madness, drive him out." But he only bowed, spreading his arms wide and crying, "Behold, the king of dust, naked, for dust needs no silk, crowned, for dust rules longer than men." Close quote. Children laughed, merchants spat, but secretly the people watched him with unease. The governor, furious, summoned him. "You dare mock kingship? Cover yourself, fool, before I have you flogged." The madman bowed deeply. Ash fell like snow from his body. "Governor, you wear silk and steal coins. I wear dust and steal nothing. Tell me, which of us lasts longer?" The court stifled laughter. The governor's eyes blazed. One day, he sat on the ground, coating his body with fresh ash from a brazier. "Why cover yourself in filth?" a merchant mocked. The fool grinned. "This is not filth, this is truth. When your beauty rots and your coins scatter, this is all that will remain of you. Better to wear it now and get comfortable." The merchant fled, pale as chalk. A child tugged at his ash-smeared hand. "Uncle, are you not cold?" The fool smiled softly. "Child, when you are wrapped in God, even ashes are a blanket. and the child swore the fool's skin glowed faintly, as if embers still lived in the ash. Weeks later, the governor fell ill. He died suddenly, despite his doctors and gold. When the mourners gathered, they found the fool sitting at the grave, tossing ash into the air, laughing. "Why do you mock the dead?" they cried. He replied, "I do not mock, I remind. He too has joined my kingdom at last, the kingdom of dust." The crowd trembled. The next day he was gone. Some swore they saw him dissolve into the wind, his ash scattering across the city. Others whispered that every handful of dust now holds a fragment of his laugh. Kings build thrones on stone, fools wear crowns of ash. In the end, both sit in the same dust, but only the Majdhūb laughs while waiting. The eighth scroll of the Codex of the Majdhūbs, the story of the man who found divinity in fur, fleas, and forgiveness. The scroll of the mad lover of dogs, the fool who barked for mercy. I, the dog saint of the alley. They found him curled in the kennels behind the butcher's stall, half covered in burlap, half covered in puppies. He smelled like heaven's trash can. The butcher yelled, "Get out, madman, you'll scare the customers." The fool only smiled, scratching a mutt's ears. "Scare them? I'm baptizing them. These are angels who forgot their wings." The butcher spat. "They're dogs." The fool nodded. Exactly the most honest species on earth. One afternoon he wandered into the mosque with 6 dogs behind him. The elders screamed, "Unclean beasts!" The fool bowed deeply. "Then call me unclean too, for mercy doesn't need shoes." The dogs sat in a perfect row, silent as worshippers. One elder whispered, shaken, They seem to be praying." The fool winked. "Of course, dogs always remember the one who feeds them. Men, not so much." The scholars surrounded him in the courtyard. "Madman, do you claim animals know God?" The fool scratched his beard. "If they don't, why do they wag their tails at sunrise?" Scholars shouted, "Blasphemy!" The fool laughed. "Then call the morning light a heretic too, for it bows before no man's logic." The governor, curious and irritated, summoned him. "Why disgrace our city by sleeping with dogs?" The fool bowed. "Because they bite only when wronged. I wanted to study restraint." The court burst into laughter. The fool continued, eyes bright. "You build gallows for men, but dogs forgive by dinner." Even the guards smiled behind their hands. One night a great flood swept the town. The fool was seen leading dozens of dogs through the rising water, each carrying a child on its back. When morning came, he was gone. Only paw prints and laughter remained in the mud. The governor himself whispered, "Perhaps mercy does have 4 legs." At dusk, the townsfolk sometimes hear a single bark echoing through the streets, followed by laughter. Children toss scraps into the air, saying, "For the dog saint," and stray dogs still gather at the mosque steps, sitting as if in prayer. The Majdhūb teaches mercy by wagging, not preaching. The beasts remember God through gratitude. Men forget through pride. When you hear barking, listen closely. It might be the beloved calling you home. The wine-slick edge of divine foolishness. This is the 9th scroll of the Codex of the Majdhūbs, the story of the man who found enlightenment at the bottom of a wine jug and set the night itself on fire with laughter. The scroll of the drunk saint of lanterns, the fool who lit the taverns of God. I, the drunk in the mosque. They found him once again. Sprawled outside the mosque door, a broken lantern in one hand, a jug of wine in the other. "Madman, you disgrace the holy house," the imam cried. The fool raised the jug solemnly. "On the contrary, I am testing its foundation. If a temple cannot stand one drunk's truth, it deserves to fall." Then he took a swig and hiccuped out a verse from the Quran, perfectly recited, flawlessly pronounced, though slurred like jazz. Each evening he wandered the alleys lighting old lanterns, murmuring to himself. The people mocked. "Fool! It's still daylight." He grinned, saying, "I light them before the night comes. Better to prepare the light than curse the darkness later." By dusk, every corner of the city glowed like a drunken constellation walking on earth. One night the governor invited him for entertainment. "Come, fool, show us how wine makes you wise." The drunk saint arrived barefoot, carrying 2 lanterns. He set one on the table and one on the floor. This one, he said, pointing to the high lantern, is the light of those who think they're holy. He pointed to the floor lantern. This one is the light of those crawling through the mud. Then he blew out the high lantern. The room fell into golden glow from below. He laughed. See? God still prefers the light that kneels. The room went silent. Then half the guests started crying, half started clapping. He preached in taverns, not temples. Between sips he'd shout open quote, "You pray 5 times a day. I laugh 5 times an hour. Both reach the same beloved." Close quote. Someone asked, "Then what is sin?" He smirked. "Anything that makes you forget how loved you are." The drunks roared with laughter, slapping tables. Even the bartender whispered, "Maybe he's not mad, maybe he's free." One night the tavern caught fire. Wine barrels burst into flame. People screamed and fled. The fool stayed, dancing amid the sparks, swinging his lantern and singing. By morning, the tavern stood untouched. The fire had burned around it, leaving the walls glowing faintly like gold. The people swore he was seen standing in the ashes, laughing and sober at last. The next morning, he was gone. Only his lanterns remained, hundreds of them, flickering across the city rooftops. To this day, travelers say that when the night grows too dark, a mysterious lantern will light itself in some forgotten alley, and a soft laugh will echo. Drink deep, but not from the jug, from the joy. The Majdhūb drinks not to escape God, but to find him in everything. His wine is joy, his drunkenness remembrance. Better to stumble toward the beloved laughing than to walk straight into pride. The scroll of the woman who argued with angels, the fool who threw shoes at heaven. I, the midnight yelling. They called her Laylat the Loud, because every night she could be heard from her rooftop shouting at the heavens. Pots rattled, curtains twitched, and neighbors muttered prayers under their breath as she waved her arms and stomped on the tiles. She wasn't cursing the sky out of madness. No, she was debating it. The locals swore they heard multiple voices answering her, gentle and melodic, like harps trying to calm a thunderstorm. But Laylat didn't care. She wagged her slipper toward the invisible beings and shouted things like, "If you're so perfect, then why do you never help until the last minute? And don't tell me to be humble. I'm the one doing laundry in this heat." Eventually, the local imam claimed to have received a complaint, not from townsfolk, but from the angels themselves. In a dream, he saw one of them descend with a singed feather and a very tired look, saying, "Please tell her to stop throwing shoes during prayers. It's highly disruptive." The imam gathered the townspeople to confront her. Laylat arrived barefoot, her eyes sparkling like stormlight, her hair wrapped in a cloth that looked suspiciously like a halo that had gone rogue. She listened patiently to their accusations, then laughed so hard she fell to her knees. Even angels can't handle a strong woman, it seems. The crowd gasped. The imam nearly fainted. But she stood, brushed off her knees, and said, "Tell your angel friends if they don't want shoes thrown, they should try answering prayers on time." That night, the sky was strangely bright. Clouds shimmered as if embarrassed. Laylat climbed to her roof again, this time in silence. The neighbors peeked out, expecting another argument. Instead, she looked up and whispered, "All right, fine. Maybe I was harsh. But next time, answer quicker, yeah?" The stars flickered in what could only be described as cosmic laughter. And just as she turned to go inside, a soft rain began to fall. Warm, sweet, perfumed with something not of this world. Every bucket and barrel filled overnight, though no storm had been forecast. The townsfolk woke to find their wells full and their crops revived. Laylat's name changed from the loud to the beloved, though she still preferred the one who won the argument. Weeks later, she vanished. Some said she ascended barefoot, leaving her slippers behind on the rooftop. Others whispered she was taken as an advisor to the angels, to teach them humility. Children in the village claimed they could still hear her voice when thunder rumbled, scolding the clouds for being dramatic. And whenever lightning struck, People would smile and say, "Looks like Laylat's making her point again." The Majdhūba teaches that holiness is not silence, but honesty. Faith is not bowing blindly, it's standing tall enough to argue with love. Even angels respect those who speak truth with fire. When heaven delays, the wise throw their shoes, not in anger, but to remind the sky that humans too can aim high. The scroll of the beggar who sold heaven by the spoonful, the fool who made the rich taste salvation. I, the booth of blasphemy. In the center of the bazaar, where spice and noise mix like thunder, a ragged man set up a tiny booth made from crates and a torn prayer rug. Over it, he hung a crooked sign scrawled in charcoal. Heaven, one spoonful, pay what you can. Everyone assumed he'd lost his mind from fasting. Yet by midday, the entire market buzzed with curiosity. The beggar sat behind an old pot steaming with something invisible. He dipped a spoon, stirred the air, and smiled. Next! A silk merchant stepped forward laughing. All right, fool, here's a silver coin. Serve me heaven. The beggar solemnly ladled an empty spoon toward his mouth. Open. The merchant snorted but humored him. The spoon entered. Nothing touched his tongue. Yet suddenly his face froze. He saw his dead mother smiling. He smelled jasmine. He heard a laughter he'd forgotten. He stumbled back trembling. What did you do? The beggar only shrugged. Just stirred your soul. Next. Soon a scholar appeared. Indignant. This is sorcery, he cried. Heaven cannot be sold. The beggar bowed. Correct, it can only be shared. The scholar, pride pricked, demanded a taste anyway. One spoonful later, tears streamed down his face. He saw the child he used to be, kneeling in sincerity before years of arrogance hardened him. He left his sandals behind at the booth, walking home barefoot. The governor summoned the beggar. If your spoons hold paradise, give me a taste worthy of a ruler. The beggar nodded, stirred his pot, and handed him a wooden spoon. The governor laughed, swallowed air, and saw his palace burning, his servants scattering, and himself naked, covered in dust, finally free. He dropped the spoon and whispered, "Keep your heaven." The beggar smiled. "I already have." The children's feast that evening. Children gathered at his booth, giggling as they took turns sipping nothing. They squealed and danced, saying they tasted sunlight, music, and rain all at once. The beggar laughed louder than them all. Children always get the biggest portion. Their bowls are still open. The next morning, the booth was gone. Only the pot remained, still warm though empty. When the townsfolk leaned over it, they smelled everything they loved most. By sunset, even the skeptics were seen sneaking by, inhaling the invisible. The Majdhūbs sells heaven not to profit, but to prove it's already free. Each spoon stirs what we've forgotten, that paradise begins where greed ends. If you wish to taste heaven, open your mouth less and your heart more. The scroll of the seamstress who stitched time, the fool who mended what the hours tore. I, the strange tailor of the alley. She appeared one dawn in the weaver's quarter, setting up a rickety stool between the spice sellers and the cobbler. Her hands were brown and strong, her eyes full of galaxies. She introduced herself as Zara, seamstress to the clock. When people laughed, she merely threaded a golden needle that shimmered though it caught no sunlight. Her sign, stitched crookedly into a scrap of linen, read, "Tears, sleeves, and moments repaired, one stitch at a time." The crowd assumed she meant clothes. They were wrong. A wealthy merchant stormed in one day, waving a ripped ledger. "Can you sew this? My luck has been cursed ever since it tore." Zara smiled gently and pricked her finger. One drop of her blood fell onto the paper, and the tears sealed with golden thread that glowed faintly before fading. By sunset, his ships returned, long delayed, all intact. He rushed back with sacks of coins to pay her, but she was already sewing someone's shadow back to their feet. A widow came sobbing, clutching a broken hourglass, sand scattered across her shawl. "My son died too young," she cried. "Can you mend time itself?" Zara said nothing. She gathered the sand, sewed the crack in the glass, and whispered something too soft to catch. When the widow blinked, her tears turned to laughter. She saw her son, not alive but at peace, standing beside her in golden light. Then he was gone, and she felt calm for the first time in years. The governor, hearing rumors of miracles, sent for her to mend his royal cloak, torn during an argument with his wife. Zara patched it silently. The next morning the cloak was flawless, but the governor found his temper gone too. He could no longer shout. When he tried, he only hummed lullabies. He paid her double, though he never wore the cloak again. A scholar confronted her, furious. "You mock logic with your tricks. Time cannot be stitched." Zara grinned, sewed a loop in the air, and suddenly the scholar found himself back at the start of his insult, repeating the same words, more confused each time. When she snipped the loop, he fell to his knees, whispering, "Teach me the pattern." She only winked. Learn to thread patience through pride first. One evening, she packed her stool, left her golden needle on the ground, and walked into the horizon. The needle glowed for 3 nights straight, then vanished. Since then, people claim that when they mend something in silence, a torn sleeve, a broken promise, a heart, they sometimes hear her humming in the thread. The Majdhūbs mends not fabric, but fate. Every stitch of kindness binds the torn hours of the world. When you repair what's small, you are secretly repairing the sky. Scroll 13 of the Codex of the Majdhūbs, the story of the child prophet who saw the face of God in mud and made the learned lose their balance trying to see it too. The scroll of the prophet of puddles, the fool who found heaven in the mud. I, the child and the rain. After the monsoon, when the streets were soft as bread, a barefoot boy began walking from puddle to puddle, staring into each as if searching for treasure. He told everyone his name was Amir, God's mirror. The other children laughed. "You're just playing in mud." Amir grinned. "Exactly. That's where God hides when adults get boring." One morning, he stood in the bazaar holding a dented tin bowl full of muddy water. Merchants stopped counting coins to stare. He lifted the bowl high. "This is the holiest mirror in the city. Look in it and meet your maker." A silk seller peered in, saw his own sweating, anxious face, and stumbled back. The boy giggled. "See, you met him already." A scholar stormed up furious. "You insult theology." Amir splashed his sandals and said, "Then learn theology's secret. Humility floats, pride sinks." He bent down, tapped the puddle, and the surface cleared. For a breath, the scholar saw stars swirling inside the mud, galaxies spinning under his toes. He dropped to his knees, trembling, whispering prayers he hadn't used since childhood. The governor summoned the boy, intrigued and annoyed. "Show me this divine puddle trick," he ordered. Amir nodded, filled a bowl, and placed it before the ruler. "Look!" The governor bent down and saw himself, old and tired, but behind him stood every beggar he'd ignored. He reeled back, shouting, "Enough!" The boy only smiled. "Then stop calling it mud if you don't like what it shows." Soon every child in town was carrying bowls of rainwater, declaring themselves prophets. The adults panicked. Scholars couldn't preach over the laughter, and no one bowed properly anymore. But the city changed. Neighbors helped each other, merchants gave alms, and even dogs were fed scraps of bread. Because every time it rained, people remembered the boy's words. God hides in the low places. One dawn, after a night of storms, Amir disappeared. In the center of the marketplace lay only his tin bowl, full of perfectly still water. The clouds parted, sunlight hit it, and for an instant, everyone saw their own faces shining like gold. Then the bowl overflowed and drained into the earth. The Majdhūbs teaches that purity is not spotless, it is reflection in motion. Heaven glimmers through dirt, laughter through tears. When you kneel to see what others step over, you share the viewpoint of God.
To our beloved collective, from the day one torchbearers to the newly awakened travelers, we see you, we honor you, and we love you. This isn't just a community, it's a soul constellation, a family woven across time. Thank you again for being here. Your presence means more than words can carry. Every little act of kindness you offer is a spark, shifting timelines, mending hearts, and quietly realigning the compass for many in ways only the unseen can measure. And to those yet to join us, we're holding the lantern high. There's room for you too. with eternal gratitude and cosmic mischief from the collective of Shaman Ahll. The journey is only beginning, and we ride together. All rise.
Saying moisturizer is your best friend. Never let your skin go dry, or you'll be out here aging like milk. It's true because the creator typed it and I said it.